host, Mari Riesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Cameron Harris, Managing Director of Truth Fitness. Please enjoy Cameron Harris. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Today, I'm chatting with Cameron Harris, Managing Director of Truth Fitness. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Maury. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I am super excited to dive into creativity with you and see how it shows up in your world. But before we get there, why don't you take a couple of minutes and let our listeners know a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, great. So it's quite nice to have a platform to talk about what you do for a couple of minutes. I appreciate that as well. So as I mentioned, my name's Cameron Harris. Cam, everyone calls me Cam. It's easy and it's short and sharp. And I'm a personal trainer by trade. That's what I've trained in. And as you mentioned at the start of this recording, I'm managing director of True Fitness. And in a nutshell, we work with business owners and executives across the globe now. So we're a London-based company, but we've got clients in the US where you are, we've got clients in Australia, Singapore, kind of business hubs really all around the world. And we help them to optimize their health, improve their sleep, look after their nutrition. And we do that over normally about 16 to 52 weeks, depending on the individual. And the types of people we work with, they're kind of the business elite, I suppose you'd call it, people running companies, people that are traveling a lot, people that are really short on time. And generally speaking, they come to us because they've been really kind of let down by the generic popular information that's out there, your kind of low carb diets and your local personal trainers, and they don't quite have the knowledge, or it doesn't quite fit or fix the issues they've got. So they come to us and we look after every element in a very holistic way, I suppose.
I love that. And my goodness, I am now so curious. The kind of, it sounds like it's a very, when you say holistic, you're looking at what facets of someone's health and wellness experience, and how are you tapping into each one of those?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I use the word holistic because it feels like the best way to describe. I also know that it can be a bit confusing because there's holistic medicine, there's holistic
Hmm.
health as well. So we're not kind of in that holistic world. When I say holistic, I mean that we look after every element for
Hmm.
them. So when we kind of, first have a conversation with a business owner or a C-suite executive, we take a very much consultative kind of view on it. So there's lots of questions, lots of open conversations. I mean, we generally spend 3 to 4 hours with everyone that we talk to before we even consider them as a client, because we need
Mm.
to understand, what's their schedule like? What are their stress levels like? What is their sleep
Yeah.
like? What is their nutrition like? What is their exercise history? Who runs their diary? How much responsibility have they got? There's lots of things to talk about, right? How is their, mental health? Are they struggling with overwhelm and anxiety?
Hmm.
So until we understand that, we can't really build out any type of program. Once we get into the point where we have a deep understanding of most of those areas I've spoken about, then we can say, do you know what? We can definitely help you. And these are the ways we're going to help you. So, from our standpoint as a coaching team, we very much focus on nutrition, training, sleep, habit optimization, which is what are the things you do every
Hmm.
day? Are you eating Haribo 3 times a day? Are you grabbing a croissant in between meetings? Are you not getting up and moving, etc.? Right?
Hmm.
They're the areas that we focus on, but then we have a real kind of nice range of trusted people we work with. So from executive coaches to blood work experts to microbiome experts to psychologists and private doctors. So really, we kind of created a business where once that type of client comes to us, we can look after every element of their health and their fitness,
Mm.
not just from a, okay, I want to lose some weight and feel better, but also from a longevity and also a business performance perspective. Because,
Mm.
as we probably well know, if you're running a company, you are going to have to be working a lot. You are going to
Mhm.
have to understand that business is a marathon, not a sprint. It's going to be the next
Mhm.
30, 40 years of your life. So, yeah, it's not as simple as just don't eat quite as much and walk more. It's a bit more than that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I I have so many questions just from that explanation, but I'm so curious the kind of intertwinement of creativity within all of that. When you think of creativity and being creative, what does it mean to you to be creative?
Yeah, it's a great question because I think we spoke about this briefly last time we spoke briefly when I was not feeling well. But yeah, I was thinking about this morning because I knew we were going to talk, and that creativity element is really interesting because if you look at nutrition and working out, it's got a real kind of strong science-led background. It's all about peer-reviewed studies, and it's all about black and white. But the reality is that when you're dealing with human beings, nothing's really black and white. It
Yeah.
doesn't work like that.
Hmm.
And, as much as science and nutritional science and, sport strength and conditioning wants to say, look, this is the way you've got to do it, this is the way it works and nothing else. It's not like that because, you're not dealing with a robot. So I think where the creativity comes in is when you try to, or you endeavor to build out we use the term hyper personalized because it is hyper personalized. It's not just, okay, let's pull these three things from the box. This will work
Hmm.
for you, sorry. It's kind of like a daily reassessment of the situation. So you're constantly kind of talking to that client, you're constantly gaining feedback, and you're constantly kind of changing the direction of travel to make sure they keep moving forward. So, give you an example, right? Let's imagine that you start an executive of Aon Insurance or Netflix or whatever, and start a program, and you've kind of set out this first 4 weeks of what it's going to look like. This is the training, this is the nutrition, here's the supplements, here's the goals, right? And then 3 days into that, they say, right, I'm really sorry, but I've got to fly to New York, I've got to fly to London, I've got to fly to Dubai and spend a week there because I've now got a crisis meeting for the board. That's all
Hmm.
out the window now. That's
Yeah.
gone. So that creativity comes in to say, right, okay, what do we do now then? Because the plan is now smashed to bits. So when you become creative in that situation, it's about being nimble enough and being flexible
Mhm.
enough to say, right, how do we get this person to move forward despite what's happened? So for me, I think that, the way we have built the business, or I built the business with a great team behind me, we can fix that problem. Whereas when you're dealing with, a solo trainer or a solo coach, it's very difficult because they just haven't got that time and that ability to be flexible. So I think, yeah, as a company, I think we have to be creative more regularly than not. There's not really many situations where we're dealing with someone that everything goes right and everything goes to plan. It just doesn't really regularly happen.
Sure. I can only imagine dealing with that kind of elite business person, how many pivots and turns and shifts are constantly being made in your own life running a company. What does that creativity look like for you when I'm sure those same things happen?
Yes, again, it's really interesting. I mean, I've got two young kids, so I think they make you be creative. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what your experience has been like, but I mean, I've got a 9 and a 6 year old,
Mhm.
and they're kind of getting to the point now where my weekend is run by them
Hmm.
rather than the other way around. So I
Sure.
think my creativity, I mean, this weekend, for example, my wife was working on the Saturday, then she had a conference on the Sunday. So my creativity was thinking, right, what am I going to do with these children for 40 hours to keep them entertained? So
Yeah.
we went fishing, we went down to the local lake and we took them fishing, which they really enjoyed. So I think being a creative parent and kind of changing, working on different areas that you wouldn't necessarily be doing if it wasn't for your kids. Like one of my kids loves drawing and creating
Mm.
art and stuff like that. Whereas I was never that kid. I'm more sporty and kind of down that route, right?
Mhm.
So it's forcing me to kind of learn that stuff a little bit, and that bit more creativity, because like I say, they run my weekend, so I kind of have to go along with what they want, if you get what I mean.
Absolutely. And speaking
Yeah.
of your own experience with childhood and creative expression and experiences, what's your earliest memory of being creative?
Hmm. That's a really good question, because I don't actually have any memory of being that creative. I mean, and I'll be completely candid because we're having this conversation. Well, I was actually on a call with my sister a bit earlier. My memory of my childhood is really quite poor. It's
Yeah.
not great. I think
Mm.
my mum and dad split up when I was about 8 or 9. I think my
Hmm.
brain kind of created a trauma block, and it made it all
Yeah.
disappear. So I do struggle with general kind of
Mm.
memories of being a kid, which is when you research it, you realize it happens quite a lot when kids go through a little bit of
Yeah.
trauma when they're young. But from a creativity point of view, my creativity came out through sport.
Hmm.
That's the way I did it. Creativity for me would be, how do I become better at this sport? For me, it was rugby. That was the sport I always wanted to play.
Yeah.
So creativity was, how do I improve my strength? How do I improve my fitness? How do I improve my ball skills? How do I research and learn more about this sport? Because
Mm.
my dream was to become a professional rugby player. That was my dream
Hmm.
from the age of maybe 10 to 25, right?
Hmm.
So, yeah, that would be where it kind of the channel that I found. I wasn't particularly, into drawing or coloring or anything kind of classically kind of creative. But yeah, I think that was where the flow was going for me, really.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I appreciate the different version of creativity with sports and rugby because even though it's something people don't consider to be quote unquote in the creative arts, so much creativity goes into every single play. You are watching other people and responding and reacting and listening, and that's all creativity really is. Like
Yeah, I think so. I think so. It's not,
showing up.
it's there's a phrase like non-linear and linear sport. So,
Yeah.
there's a sport where you're playing against another team. It
Hmm.
requires you to think in the moment and change what you thought you were going to do. There's no kind of, A to B. You
Hmm.
have to be creative and think on your feet and change what you're doing all the
Yeah.
time, which, it is a skill unto itself, because you can't, as you get better at that sport, you have to become quicker at thinking and making
Hmm.
decisions in the moment, which for me personally, when I think about it more, actually, that is creativity. It's about being creative in that moment and thinking, what's the next step? Okay, maybe it wasn't that one, maybe it's this one. I'll go with this choice, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I hope that makes sense anyway.
Yeah, and to see kind of how that shows up in your business today, that sounds like you're constantly doing that. You're not in the vacuum doing something alone. It's engaging with other people and they're essentially going off the playbook and you have to say, "Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
how do I
yeah.
adapt or respond to that?" Yeah.
Yeah, we have some frameworks, like some frameworks we work from, but
Hmm.
it's I think, just to comment on my industry specifically, I think, you know, a lot of people in my space think of what they do as very linear, like it's,
Hmm.
calories in, calories out, eat this amount of that, this amount of that, do this amount of reps. And it kind of, I get why people do that, because it means that they can grow the business, and it can just be done in a really simple kind of repeatable way. But if you
Hmm.
really want to have an impact, you're going to have to get a bit creative about how you deal with people, and the way that you inspire them, and the way that you
Hmm.
motivate them, the way you talk to them. There's a lot of skill in there.
Hmm.
And it's not just, this is the thing that worries me about. I'm sure you talk about this a lot in your podcast. It's the thing that worries me about AI and the dawn of, all the
Hmm.
apps that are now in my industry, where you can punch a couple of things in, it comes out and gives you all
Yeah.
this information, which is great, but it's not empathetic. It's not going to understand when you feel crap and you don't want to do that today. It's just not going to get it. So I
Yeah.
think the creativity is being sucked out of lots of
Mm.
things, and my industry definitely is not being left behind on that.
Hmm.
Whereas what we want to do, what we keep doing, is going the other way, which is human to human.
Yeah.
It's that kind of real one-to-one, human to human part, because, in my opinion, that will become a lot more valuable as the years go
Hmm.
on. And yeah, I'm sure you talk about that a lot on your podcast because it's a big thing, right?
Maybe not as much as you might think, but yes,
Oh,
it
really?
is
Okay,
such
right, right.
an important piece. I mean, with all of the AI creative stuff that initially started and then has kind of a second wave to it
Mm.
in today's with the AI created actor
Yeah, I was about to
experience.
talk about
And
that. It's crazy, right?
it
Yeah.
is so terrifying. And at the
Mm,
same time, this, how do we use it in a productive, supportive fashion and not in an isolating? Because that is an isolating experience of
mm,
having some AI generated thing, because it's not a person who has
mm.
emotion and feeling and relational history. It has no history. It was
Yeah.
just created. And so to be able to bring that history to the present in relationship with someone else, I think the that's the sweet spot of getting
Yeah.
to have that creative or co-creative collaboration that you miss
Mm,
out with AI. Yes,
yeah.
I can get a routine or a nutritional program, but if I have questions about it or if I have concerns, the AI is just going to tell me what I want to hear. It's not going to actually break things down in a way that
Yeah,
I
I
can
had a
relate to.
I had a conversation had a conversation with a client this morning about, a couple of concerns they've got, and it was, um, we yeah, with our clients, I'm sure it's the same with a lot of companies that work with people very on a very personal level. You
Hmm.
become quite close, and you can become quite candid and honest with each other.
Yeah.
And he was telling me about, some issues at home and some other external stresses. And, we had a good chat about things. And it was definitely outside the realms of, you know, eat less, move more. This was like a real kind of conversation around, hey man, it's going to be all right. We'll help you. We'll look after you, and we'll do this going forward. And just give me a
Hmm.
shout if you need to chat. So, I get why people think that, AI is going to fix their
Hmm.
problems. I get it. It's cheap. It's free in most cases. It's easy.
Hmm.
It spits data out. But I think when you define something like health down to numbers, it doesn't work for me. It just sucks the life out of anything. It's going to be, you
Yeah.
know, you need to be motivated and have that open conversation with someone that knows what you're talking about.
Absolutely. It loses the humanity aspect of
Yeah,
it,
for
that
sure.
piece.
Mm.
Well, in terms of inspiration, not only inspiring your clients and motivating your clients to participate in these things that they're wanting, how do you find your own inspiration and where does that come from?
Yeah. Um, I suppose, again, that's a great question because you're asking me questions I don't normally get asked, which is great because normally it's kind of, what would you to do if he's working with this business, or what would you say in this workshop? So it's good to hear something a bit different. I think my inspiration, it might sound really cliche, but it's actually my kids. It really is my kids because I
Mhm.
think before you have children, you don't know, do you? You don't know what it's like before you have kids, and you're thinking about yourself and all the stuff you want to do and
Mm.
all the money you're going to make and blah 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 blah. And then you have kids and you're like, actually, I just want to be a better dad and inspire them.
Oh,
And
yeah.
do is that decision I made yesterday, is that the best decision? What
Mm.
do I want my kids to see that? It kind of puts a bit more light pressure on you to be a better person. And I can genuinely say, and this is hand on heart, I'm a better person
Mm.
now than what I would have been pre-kids, because it
Mm.
makes me improve. It makes me, you know, read parenting books. It makes me read more
Yeah.
self-help books. It makes me want to inspire them by taking positive action. So
Mm.
I think, yeah, they really are my inspiration. I think my my dad had me when he was about 54, 55. So I didn't have very long
Mm.
with him. He died a couple of years ago, but he was ill for 15
Yeah.
years. So he had vascular dementia. So he's really ill for
Mm,
a long time. So I think that as well, it really makes me kind of show up and make sure I don't miss
mm,
stuff with my kids. So I
yeah.
think, yeah, the inspiration to me genuinely is making sure that I set a good example for my kids as much as I can. We're all human, right? But yeah, I genuinely think that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So how does that show up then in business? Do you find yourself making different choices so you can show up for them differently, being a business owner
Yeah.
and navigating this kind of high level, working with people who also are in this very high level business space?
Yeah, I mean, example, last Thursday, my eldest had a cross country race at 11 o'clock, and one of the other mums from one of the other boys said, "I'll take him." I said, "No, I don't mind if you take him, but I'm going to go with him because I want to watch him." So I took basically half of the day off to go and watch him do
Mm,
his cross country because I want to make sure that I'm there to see it. Because I want him to, when he gets older, go, "Do you know what? Dad always came to watch me and stuff like that."
mm,
So I think in the world that I work in, where people are so driven and so kind of you know pushing towards this golden rainbow of whatever they're trying to catch. I think quite regularly I hear people that are very kind of very upset about the fact they missed a lot of stuff because my wife
mm,
makes a point of it and she makes a really good point. And I think the situation I spoke about with my dad
mhm.
makes you realize that they're not that age for very long, another couple of years and they won't be doing that stuff. They won't care if you're there or not.
Right.
So I think from my perspective, I will keep making sure that I
Mm,
see all the stuff, whether it's, football, soccer, whether it's, running race, whether it's, a drama show or
mhm,
whatever it's going to be. I'll make sure I'm there because before you know it, they're 13 and they don't really care if they're there or not anymore. And, there's always time to do more hours. There's always time to
mhm,
make more money. There's always time to do business. But I think, this is a snapshot in time. And it's what's more important than seeing your kids do stuff that's important to them. That's what I
mhm.
think.
Absolutely. And I would be so curious to talk to the people that you work with, your clients, to hear how that perspective you hold shows up in the work that you do with them because th- I would just be so curious. The creative curiosity in me has a lot of
Yeah.
interest in how when we hold something as important to ourselves, how that is reflected or how other people see that and start to question how they show up and how they're doing things, even if it's not discussed or talked about overtly, but just that you as Cam are holding that for yourself and how that comes across to other people.
It depends on whether they're inspired by me, I guess. I mean, it's we talk about this a lot. I talk about it a lot when I'm posting about, when you are a senior leader within the team, people look up to you, they look at what
Mhm.
you do.
Yeah.
And if you're, walking up the stairs to the 9 a.m. meeting, you're sweating and you're panting and you sweat, shirt's all sweaty, and
Mm.
you look like you're in terrible shape. People see that, and that's not going to inspire them, right? But
Mm.
as you alluded to earlier, if you're kind of going, "Hey guys, I can't make the meeting this morning because I'm going to watch my son play football for an hour. I'll be in at 10, fill me in," and you come run upstairs and you're super fit and you're looking after yourself, that
Mm.
is inspiring. That is
Yeah.
an inspirational thing. So, yeah, I think, when it comes to leaders and business owners, I mean, I know you guys have got an obesity issue like we do. Ours is,
Mhm.
steadily catching you guys up in general. But, I think senior leaders, if we want to have an impact on this obesity crisis, I genuinely believe that
Mm.
starting with the people at the top of businesses is a really great place to start because,
Mhm.
if you look at a business as like a triangle, right?
Yeah.
That person at the top and those people at the top, if they start to prioritize their health and their sleep and their kids and all that stuff we spoke
Mm.
about earlier, then the management team sees it and then the rest of the team sees it. And it starts to have a really
Right.
big impact, starts to come down. So yeah, the point you made is really poignant and it's true. People look up and go, what are they doing? We don't
Mhm.
generally look down or sideways and say, what are they doing? It's like, oh well, Jeff Bezos, look at Jeff Bezos. I want to be like him,
Mm-hmm.
rather than being, okay, let's look at this person over here who's not doing really well for themselves. That's not inspiring, right? So
Right.
you make a really good point.
Yeah, that's that the oh man, I had it in my mind and now it has gone. It has flown away. But just that when we look up towards the top of where we want to go, and if people at the top are doing things in a holistic fashion or balanced way, that is it's shifting the narrative almost. So that's what I was
Mm,
trying to remember. I was going to say around it doesn't have to be all work all the time. Having a more balanced ability in your life to attend to your fitness, your health, your nutrition, all of those
yeah.
pieces when those down the ladder see you, they start to make those changes earlier
Mm.
along their journey. So,
I
yeah.
think things have changed as well. I think, we could talk about 3 hours about this because obviously it interests me. I don't know if it interests you, but
Yeah.
I think culturally and societally, we've started to really shift. As I mentioned earlier, people like I use Jeff Bezos all the time as an example
Hmm.
because obviously he's got himself super shredded and all that kind of stuff, right? And he's one of the richest men on the planet. The old kind of 1980s, 1990s
Yeah.
Gordon Gekko, cigar smoking, cocaine sniffing, beer
Hmm.
drinking, kind of business leader. That's not the inspiration for people anymore. And because
Right.
of, how business is now, where you can have someone in the bedroom that's good at AI competing with companies
Hmm.
10 times the size.
Right.
And you can have people that have learned from YouTube how to build software, this kind of stuff now, and where it's completely globalized, you
Mm.
can't be in a leadership position and not look after your health because you're going to lose. You just
Yeah.
can't compete because, you know, it's just 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It's just completely non-stop. So if you
Yeah.
are in a position of power, if you're in a position
Hmm.
in business of power,
Yeah.
and you're not spending at least 20% of your energy on making sure that you're looking after yourself,
Hmm.
you're going to lose because you're going to burn out. You're going to get
Yeah.
sick. You just can't do it. There's loads of research coming out now about
Hmm.
CEOs, and there's actually kind of reporting weekly burnout now for
Yep.
CEOs. And there's a new study coming out that said that, CEOs generally lose 1.2 to 1.5 years of their life
Hmm.
because of the amount of stress they go through in the modern era with the dawn of
Mm.
AI and all the stress of that. So it's kind of like a non-negotiable now. You can't
Yeah.
really not do it. So anyway, that's me
Yeah.
banging that drum, but yeah, it's
I'm
important.
right there with you. I will
Yeah, yeah,
happily
yeah,
be the
yeah.
cheerleader to it. Absolutely. Well, as you said, we could talk for several hours about this and creativity, but I just have one last question for you. What does it feel like in your body to be creative?
Hmm. I suppose it kind of gives you that feeling of being energized and being free and being able to kind of take a situation. I use situation because that's the way that I express that creativity. Take a situation and say, okay, that was really difficult. That was challenging. It pushed me to my limits and made me think about different things in different ways. But we got the outcome, we got the result we wanted. And it makes you kind of feel proud, I suppose, when it goes well.
Mhm.
So, yeah, those are the words I would use to describe
I
that.
love it. I can relate that energized peace and pride and all of it. So, thank you, Cam, so much for taking the
That's
time to
right.
chat with me. If people want to learn more about your work and the things you have out in the world, how could they go about doing that?
Yeah, best place to go is to go onto LinkedIn. We're very active on there. So just type in Cameron Harris, Truth Fitness, and you'll find me very quickly. Yeah, we're really chatty and open, and we can help people out if they've got any questions. And we're always sharing content on health and fitness and, specific executive stuff. Yeah, check us out there. That'd be cool.
Perfect. I'll put that link in show notes so people have easy access. And thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.